how to build a good relationship with your partner. That's the goal of every partnership, to have a great relationship, something that you're really proud of and you feel loved in. And so that's what I'm gonna go over today. My name's Chris Richardson. I'm a coach here at Life on Your Terms, and I make these videos here so you can do exactly that. You can live a life on your terms. So how to build a good relationship with your partner. I'm gonna talk about two key aspects. Those being a thing that everybody talks about but doesn't put into practice. And then another thing that seems so simple but is often hard to do, and a lot of people display these behaviors. So you want to stick around just to understand these things, to see if you're doing them in your relationship. Maybe you feel like you don't have a good relationship with your partner, and that's okay. That's where I encourage you to take the balance wheel in the description below, because there you can see how you feel about your relationship, but also you can see about how you feel about your health, how you feel about your professional life, and how you feel about your resources. And those four things all tie together, so it's important to understand them all. So, what was I talking about when I said the thing that everybody talks about doing but doesn't do? I was talking about communication. We talk so much about communication, but how often do we try to improve our communication with our partner? Or how often do we ask each other questions that can deepen the relationship? A great question that you can ask your partner, especially in the beginning phases of the relationship, is what is your love language? What do I mean by love languages? Well, if you haven't heard of them, there's 5 of them. Those being words of affirmation, acts of service, gifts, quality time, and physical touch. With those 5, when you ask yourself, what is your love language to your partner? It can help you understand, what does my partner need from me? And it really deepened my relationship. So I've been in a relationship for 8 years now. And when we kind of went over our love languages, we found that we're actually opposites. And that's pretty actually frequent. So my love languages is physical touch and quality time. And her love languages are acts of service and gifts. And so I would try to love her with quality time and physical touch. And she would try to love me with acts of service and gifts. And while I did feel loved and she felt loved as well, it would be better if I just surprised her with flowers and maybe did some laundry for her or whatever it means. That really makes her feel loved. And for me, if she just comes up and gives me a hug in a hard time and sits and hangs out with me for 30 minutes, that makes me feel really loved. And when you can understand each other's love languages, you can then understand, how should I love my partner in a way they want to be loved in? Because frequently we try to love our partners in the way that we want to be loved in, and that is great, and it can make our partners feel loved, but their love language is how they truly feel loved, if that makes sense. That's a great question to ask, and it can be some good communication to deepen the relationship. And another thing that has to be mentioned with communication is it has to be open, honest, and with respect. It has to be open and direct about things that need to be talked about. You need to be honest, because when you just hide stuff, that's going to make you unhappy. So it's better to just be honest about it and do it with respect, though, and empathy. How is this person going to feel when I tell them this? But you need to be honest, and you need to do it with respect. And then also, when you bring up something, you need to listen what they say back and not interrupt them. Listen to how they feel, practice that empathy, and practice that active listening to really show that you care. Now, another great question you can ask to improve your communication, deepen your relationship, is ask your partner, what is the ideal relationship, our ideal partner to you? Because then it can also show, what characteristics or behaviors can I start doing to get as close to that ideal relationship or ideal partner as I can for my partner, because I care about them. And that can really deepen the relationship and help you guys as well. Another great question is, what are your goals and how can I support them? That is a powerful question. And when I've done that in my relationship with my partner, we feel great after that conversation, because you feel good when you talk about your goals, but then you have someone to support you along the way and be your corner. And I think there's almost nothing better than that. So that can be really helpful as well in the communication realm. So, what's the other aspect of the relationship that I was talking about that seems simple, but we don't often do? I was talking about simply how you treat each other. And when I talk about how you treat each other, I'm talking about Gottman's Four Horsemen, if you ever heard of that. So Gottman's Four Horsemen basically predicts to a 90 to 95% accuracy if a relationship will last or not. And those four horsemen are contempt, stonewalling, criticism, and defensiveness. So what does contempt look like? That's like mocking or passive aggressive behavior, stuff like that. And that's the worst of them all, at least according to Gottman. And then stonewalling is not giving any reaction or talking to, and it's totally okay to say, hey, I need a 15-minute break. Let's come back to this conversation later. But stonewalling is the silent treatment where you don't talk to each other for a long period of time. Criticism, so you attack someone's character instead of their behavior, and this is dangerous as well, so you want to avoid that. And then defensiveness, you've done something wrong and you won't admit it. Being defensive like this also will predict a relationship ending. So if you see any of these four in your relationship, you need to try to fix them, because 90 to 95% of relationships that show one of these four will end. So it's important to get past those. How else should you treat each other? Well, with that, you need to have mutual respect and trust of boundaries. If your partner has a boundary, you need to respect that. So often partners walk all over each other and sometimes don't even tell each other about it. But you need to have mutual respect of the boundaries that you set for each other, and then trust that your partner will be able to respect those boundaries. That will have an impact on how good your relationship is as well. Now, another great thing of how you treat each other and how that's going to affect the relationship is support and empathy. Support through hard times. If they just lost a loved one, or they're going through a hard time with their job, whatever it may be, being in their corner is key. And that is one of the biggest things in my relationship that I value so much, is that she is always in my corner. She is always my number one fan, my number one supporter, and that means the world to me. And I bet it means the world to a lot of you guys too. So I'd encourage you to practice that support and empathy through problems and being in their corner, but also when they're up here too. When they're doing great, support them and be with them through the moment and support them along the way, because that's super powerful. So at the end of the day, another great thing you can do on how you treat each other is just showing each other love. And you guys will have to be responsible for defining that within your relationship and how you show each other love. But in my relationship, sometimes it's simply just cuddling up on the couch and watching a movie and talking to each other. And that's how we show each other love. It's one of my favorite things to do at night, is just sit down with my partner and be able to talk to her and just talk to her about anything and whatever it is, and finding what is love to you guys, and then doing that frequently. And I would encourage you to plan dates and prioritize, because especially with kids and jobs and life, we get busy and sometimes we don't prioritize our partners as much as we should. So I would encourage you to at least prioritize a date once a month. That's what me and my partner do. We are okay being homebodies for most of the time, but we do like to go out and share a meal together. So we will go out at minimum once a month, planned. So the key is to plan it, because then it puts prioritization behind the act of going out together, and that is important to allocate time for the relationship.